My book is out. The reviews are in. Let's take a look. What? I read the excerpt from this page on Amazon, and I'm sorry, but no, I've never seen writing this bad. Get so many glowing 5-star reviews. I'd buy this book only if I were going to use it as an example of how not to write a story. Good lord, so boring. I'm sorry, but this book is boring and dreadfully written. I got to chapter 5 and just gave up. Well, that's the problem then, huh? Hi, Dean. I'm addressing you directly in this part, just to be clear on some things right away. 1. Haven't finished your book, but I'm tempted to, just because I want to see if you're capable of salvaging the Trainwick. That's the author's note in the first 27 pages. If it costs me $10 on Barnes & Noble to earn this early opinion, I'm willing to spend that money. 2. The following has absolutely nothing to do with the book itself, but your writing. Excuse me? Are you actually a writer? Because I don't know if you have the authority to tell me how to write a book. Am I right? You know who you are. It's like something I ate and then dropped. I wanted to see what all the hubbub was about, so I downloaded a copy, and let me tell you, it's almost worth reading for how bad it is. Very bland and overdone. I thought I was going to get a supernatural horror story. Instead, all I got was a book saying how flawless it was in establishing strong characters that women would like and brag about its 6,000-word vocabulary. Well, excuse me if I'm the best writer there ever was, okay? You just don't know it yet because you're uneducated. Don't waste your time with this garbage. Well, I'm not going to waste time with this review. So in the last 2 weeks, in the hashtag writing community on Twitter, there's been a question of what's appropriate book review etiquette? What are book reviews for? Should I care what's in a book review? Should I even write a bad book review if I'm a writer? There are a lot of opinions on this, but let's see what the community is saying and then break down what's actually appropriate, what a book review is, what it's for, and how to deal with them, especially if they're bad. So one of the threads was started with this question. Is it an unsaid, unmentioned, yet carved in stone rule that you do not give bad reviews? I'm struggling with this. But what would you prefer? Honest reviews that help you grow, or positive reviews that keep you a smile on your face? One respondent said, bad reviews can destroy a book, especially if it's new. I would only give a bad review if the book could take it, or I wanted to destroy it. Another said, this troubles me. I believe in giving my honest opinion when I review a book. It makes no sense to me to give badly written, hawk-eyed, poorly structured books a pass just because giving a low score might give somebody hurt feelings. That's life. That's art. Another said, I've also heard the don't leave negative reviews thing, and I personally won't give 1 to 2 star reviews. I do think there's a place for constructive criticism, though not just this book sucks, but actually giving feedback, comments, and suggestions that can help writers improve. Public or private? Public reviews, I will do no less than 3, and then if I have something positive to say. I was honestly scared out of giving online reviews by asking the community the same question. I no longer run my blog, but my honest opinion is that you give yours. If you think the book is bad, explain why. Reviews aren't for authors, they're for readers. I don't give anything less than 3 stars, and I rarely give 5. If a book is less than 3, I don't comment at all. I just won't review stuff I didn't like. Simple. If I'm a beta reader or an ARC reading, I send the review to the author directly, and if they want it posted, I will do so. If a book has a ton of reviews, I usually read a couple of the 1 stars. I have bought books based on their negative reviews because the reviewer was good enough to explain what they did not like, and it happened to be things that I knew I would. I would caution any published writer against leaving negative reviews. Once you're an author, you're not just a reader anymore. Our authors are colleagues. Would you publish a negative, unsolicited performance review of a colleague? Someday, you could be on a panel with them. If you're an unpublished writer and book reviews are part of your online presence, then I can understand why you feel the need to be honest and give a less than stellar review. But if you want to be published someday, tread lightly. Honestly, it's the stars that mess with people's heads. If we could give reviews without them, it would make it so much more constructive. That being said, I would likely not give an indie author a review if I felt it was 1-star quality. Maybe try to send them feedback privately. The point of reviews is to help readers choose a book. I write honest but thoughtful and respectful reviews. Publicly, I only give good reviews. In person, I don't mind giving honest, difficult feedback when it's asked for. I don't make negative reviews public. If I can't give a positive review, I communicate with the author privately about the issue I found. That is how I would like to be treated. Even if it's a negative review, it should be constructive and detailed. I hate when people put 1-star reviews and say the book was crap. Crap in what respect? Language, plot, characters? Such reviews don't tell whether these people have read the book or not. Sad face. A second thread I saw on this topic had a poll. It said, is it okay to tell the truth as long as it's not hurtful, or should you only review if 5 stars since you won't fix the book anyways? There's obviously a supermajority for telling the truth as opposed to only doing 5 stars. But then let's take a look at some of the conversations that were happening underneath this thread. I'm an advocate for telling the truth kindly, but when it comes to reviewing someone's work, if I feel that it merits less than 3 stars, I would have a conversation with him, her, they beforehand. When a book is small, a single star review can destroy it. We're writers, not readers. We're here to help each other out. Posting a review gives it more traction, but anything less than 4 stars can keep them from showing up. I only go negative if I won't tank it. If a book has caught my attention enough for me to finish it, then for me, it is worth at least 3 stars. If I can't get on with it all the way, I just don't leave a review. I think a lot of us writers go into edit mode and critique instead of review. I don't think that I would leave a review that's less than 3 stars personally. I am very aware of the fact that a lot of things are not my cup of tea, and that might be good for somebody else. So while reading these discussions and participating in some of them, I noticed a couple of things. And I'm going to give you those things in about 5 points, and then I'm going to give you a little bit of extra information here at the end on one of the ways that I deal with reading critiques or reviews. Number 1, a critique is for before sales. So a lot of authors in these comments were saying that if they had a bad response to something, they would contact the author quietly to the side and then give them the critique off to the side. Now, a critique and a review are completely different things. Though they are very similar, they're not quite the same. A critique always comes before sales as opposed to a review, which comes after. A big difference between critique and review is also the purpose behind the two. For a critique, your job is to help identify areas of weakness in whatever work you're looking at, and then to present those to the artist so that they can make their story or their art piece stronger. However, a review is not actually for the author, it's for the reader. And you saw this in some of the comments saying a review is for the reader, a review is for the reader. This is true. A review is not for the author. It doesn't matter if the author likes it. The review can be anything. The review can be this sucks. Another way that the review and the critique are different is that normally you reward somebody for critiquing your work. I mean, maybe they're in your writing group, so then you're swapping stories, or maybe you've paid them. A reader picks up your book. They have now paid you for your expertise, and they are now going to grade you on your delivery of those expertise. Very different situations. Number 2, reviews are not for the writer. They're for potential customers, for readers. Now, I know it's gotten lost in pop culture, but maybe you remember the recent thing with Rotten Tomatoes and Captain Marvel. They were deleting reviews, they were deleting responses, because they have forgotten what reviews are actually for. Reviews are just responses from the layman to tell you about the product, to tell you if you should spend your money on your product, from one layman to another. We get that the critic reviews are basically commercials, which is nobody cares what the critics say. Or I should say most people don't care what the critics say. Most people look at what other customers say because other customers don't have a dog in the game, whereas everybody knows that critics get rewarded for making good reviews. From the writing world, it's obviously not very different from looking at these comments. Some of them saying, well, if you're a professional writer, you want to write good things about other writers, or you might just not get a job. That sounds like a threat. If you want to be published, you better not say that somebody else's work is not great. Writing shouldn't be tit for tat tricking the public into purchasing your book. Number 3, lying in book reviews is fraud. Because what is the purpose of lying in a book review? So there were all of these people in these comments saying that they don't give anything less than 3 stars. They don't give anything less than 4 stars because they don't want to drown a book. There was the one person saying that they don't want to destroy a book. They only give it a low star point if they want to destroy a book. That means that you are committing fraud, because the only point of giving a high number to a book that doesn't deserve it is to sell more books to more people. It's to trick people. into spending their money on your product. You are now an accomplice to fraud. And guess what? For me personally, if I'm talking to somebody or I read somebody's great reviews and I bought the book because of somebody's rave reviews or some great sales pitch from the salesman at the table, I'm going to be even harsher on that book when I review it because you got my expectations up by telling me all these great things. So if I see this book and it's got freaking 4.5 stars on it, and there's nothing bad written about it, and I've got these high expectations that this is a good book, it's at least well crafted, it makes sense, it's not trash, then I'm going to start reading it and go, what is this? And I'm going to start looking at it with a hawk eye because I was lied to. Now, what else was I lied to about for this book? And a second thing, I'm not only going to be more critical, but I'm never going to purchase from you again because the quality in the book did not match the quality that I was told about. If you're a small publisher, I'm going to have a harder time trusting if I should purchase any books from you. If you were an author that directly sold me your book, I'm going to have a hard time ever purchasing a book from you because you told me to expect this quality and I got bad quality. Personally, I don't trust anything that's only 5 stars because as somebody who's briefly touched in freelance writing, I'm also aware that there are mills of people that just get paid to go and write 5-star reviews. So one of my secrets is when I'm looking at books to get, and I don't know a lot about the book, I look at the bad star reviews because normally there is a lot more information about the type of book there is, about the characters within it, about the themes inside the 1 and 2 star reviews. Even the 3-star reviews can have more stuff, but somebody who didn't like the book, I've realized, will often say more. Now, not all bad reviews are going to say a lot of stuff that they didn't like, but more often than not, you'll find more specific information in the bad reviews than in the good reviews. And number 3, if you can't take reading bad reviews, if you get emotional, if it hurts your feelings, don't read them. Again, they're not for you. A critique and a review are different. If you don't want to know if you don't want to know what people are saying about your writing, don't worry about the reviews because they're not for you. They're for somebody who's going to spend money on the book. Also, if you're like me a little bit and you go in with the lowest possible expectations, then you'll always be surprised because you can only go up. Number 4, if you happen to get a bad review, do not go and respond to the reviewer by insulting them. In fact, do not respond to bad reviews at all unless it's just to say, thank you for your time. Thank you for your message. That's it. Take this as an example. This is from an author responding to a bad review he got on Amazon. It says, I refer you to the editorial reviews. You can believe me when I tell you those reviews are neither friends nor family. Better you should pay attention to what those professional reviewers have to say than listen to people like Vassallo or other reviewers that haven't read the book yet feel as though they intelligently comment on it and rate it. Frankly, I can't wait for Vassallo to write a book if he is capable of it, but I promise you, if he does, I will be there to render my opinion of his work. He talks a big game, tells me he's a literary expert, so let's see him write a book. Quick answer, don't hold your breath. You don't know if they've read your book or not. Just because it says verified or unverified reviewer, I buy physical copies of all of my books. And I don't get them from Amazon every time. Another thing about this is most of the people reading your work are not going to be this professional expert blah 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 with this high concept understanding of whatever literary devices you think is happening. Most people that read are just layman readers. They just like to read. And that's who you have to satisfy more than anybody, is the plain, for fun reader. So if you go, well, you can't properly appreciate this, you can't properly talk about this book and know what's actually good or not because you didn't study it, you're going to shut off a whole lot of people. And you're an elitist. I'm not Gordon Ramsay, but I know if something tastes like crap. And there will always be somebody out there who has bad things to say about you. Shakespeare still gets crap. No, some people don't like Tolkien. Look at how the last Game of Thrones season ended. Everybody hated it to the point that there was a petition of millions of people saying rewrite it. How do you think those writers feel? So you have to deal with it. It's part of it's just something that comes with this job. The final thing that I'd like to get to with this is that the in-depthness of the review is up to the reviewer. So some of those commenters were demanding that a certain amount of information be put into the review, that somebody can't just say this was garbage or I hated this and they just give it a 1 star. They don't owe you anything. Readers don't owe you anything. They've already paid you. They are now reviewing your product. They can just say this sucked. They can write a whole class worth of advice. It's up to them. I tend to like to write a lot, which is why the book reviews on my website were switched to being called book criticals. I know that I have trouble trusting indie publishers and indie books, and this conversation really didn't help me very much because I saw a bunch of people saying I won't give a poor review to something that's indie, which means there are more fake reviews out there, or there are books that are just propped up by friends and family who give it good reviews because other people won't give it bad reviews. Like I said, I usually get most of my background on a book from the bad reviews because they're usually more specific and more honest than the good reviews. There are people who are hired out there to give good reviews for cash. And I don't think it helps any indie publisher or any indie author to say don't give bad reviews because it'll bomb the books. We need to help each other. I know for me, when I see indie authors saying I'm not going to give a bad review to an indie book, I go, I'm not going to buy an indie book. I'm going to be even more careful about spending money on indie books because this isn't just about transferring money from one person to another. I'm going to be entertained. And I'm sorry, I do expect to like the book that I'm reading. I do expect to be entertained when I pick up a book, not to just shovel money at an indie author. Something that I've seen happen a lot with indie books is because publishing is so easy to do on your own, a lot of people push their work out there into the ocean of words before the book is ready. They might not know how to build a proper story. They might not know how to have the best written dialogue. They might not have edited their content. I see a lot. I don't have anything against people actually using adjectives. But when you've got, say, dialogue, at the end of every dialogue, there's a dialogue tag that tells you what the intention is. When you've got plot holes in the first 5 pages, when you've got character relationships that don't make sense in the first 5 pages. I've seen this in indie books that have just been pushed out there because people like the idea of being called a published author without actually putting in the work it takes to put out a good book. Because there's a difference between the author that edits their content and makes sure that it's the best thing that it can be, and the author who doesn't use beta readers and doesn't use an editor and doesn't use a critique group and kind of just puts words together and then puts them out there and then charges money for that. I'm sorry, I consider you a professional and this is what you give me? This is your brand name. As an author, your name is your brand name. Your book is your brand. And you get me once with that garbage and I'm never buying from you again. I think it's really harmful to the writing community to support lying to one another and to support fraud to sell each other's books. And I'm sorry, I can't be a part of that. Let me know what you think about any of this in the comments down below. I would love to hear what another audience thinks about reviews and writing and sales, and how much weight do you put in the reviews that you see on a product before you purchase something or before you read a book. I'd love to hear from you. Till next time.